Welcome to the second part of this two-part series on 400 gig architectures. In part one, our global product line manager, Ray Hagen, walked you through the basic foundations of 400 gig. If you didn't watch that already, make sure to go check that out first. In this episode, he's going to talk about the actual applications of 400 gig. So take it away, Ray.
So let's move on to applications for this 400 gig technology. So this is a standard 100 gig infrastructure data center type of network. You've got your, starting at the core, you've got your data center interconnect, your data center routers, your spine, your leaf, your under row, your top of rack switches, and your servers. Pretty typical, very standard of how today's data centers are architected. So for each segment of the network, from the top of rack, we may have DACs, AOCs, short reach transceivers. To your end of row, you're going to have maybe AOCs or SR4 type transceivers. To your 500 meters, you're going to use either PSM4s or CWDM4s. All up to one kilometer, where you have CWDM4s or LR4s, and up to your data center interconnects, where you have your LR4s, ER4s, or even coherent type modules. So this is very basic, very standard data center architecture today. Where things are interesting and make it very easy for the upgrade to 400 gig is that for each step in this network, there's a corresponding 400 gig transceiver type. So for each reach, you're going to have a arrow in the quiver, if you will, for every aspect. So if you're looking to go from the core down, or if you're looking to start at the end of row type switches with 400 gig, wherever your deployment model may be, there's going to be a corresponding transceiver there. So, why that becomes very powerful is you're looking at that gives you the opportunity to upgrade your infrastructure or your data rates by 4 times over existing infrastructure. So to me, that's a very powerful way out of the gate for 400 gig. But let's not forget our 100 gig single wavelength products we mentioned there earlier. They also have a very big role in this 4x100 infrastructure. And service providers, in their service networks, also their architecture may look a little bit different. They may have 400 gig in the core. They push 100 gig to the edge and maybe 10 gig to the access, or maybe 25 gig to the access network. But again, a very similar model where they're going to be aggregating from the access network inward. They're going to need a way to roll up that bandwidth up to take advantage of the new 400 gig core. So as you're deploying 400 gig, there's a few things to keep in mind with the breakouts or your aggregation or your whatever you want to call it. So the 400 gig to 4x100 gig breakout architecture really does require some thoughtful planning, across the entire physical layer. Consider interoperability. So currently deployed 100 gig CWDM4 and LR4, so NRZ modulated transceivers, they're not interoperable with PAM4 400 gig interfaces. That's a very big point to keep in mind. Your fiber cabling considerations, so the new connectors, CS, MPO16, you probably don't have those in your network today. You're going to need to buy those, right? We need to clean them. We may need to do a number of things that you don't do today. So also 200 gig to 2x100 gig breakouts do offer backwards interoperability, meaning that the NRZ modulation makes those interoperable with legacy LR4 and CWDM4 transceivers that may be in your network today. So the fiber cabling considerations there, you may need to worry about new duplex CS connectors, and you may need conversion media. Well, our first architecture we're going to look at here is just a 4x100 breakout, 500 meters. So you may have a DR4 transceiver at the switch or network element, and you'll break those out with an MPO breakout cable. You'll go to 4 100 gig switches, pretty straightforward. Each one of those switches will have a DR1 transceiver. So a DR4 to 4 DR1 transceivers, pretty basic breakout. And we stretch that to 2 kilometers. The transceiver at the network element, at the 400 gig network element, will be a DR4 plus transceiver. You may also refer to this as a 4x100 FR1 transceiver, depending upon who you're talking to. Now the MPO breakout from there will go to 4 FR1 transceivers at 4 100 gig switches. Now, where this is, where this thing gets a little, not quite as straightforward as the previous slide is that you would think the FR1 transceivers would subtend off of the FR4 transceiver. Well, that's not the case. The FR4 transceiver is a duplex LC transceiver with 4 CWDM multiplexed lanes, which, quite frankly, are not interoperable with each lane on a FR1 transceiver. So a little bit of misnomer there in terms of how standards have worked in the past, but hey, it is what it is. Now, as we look at the 2x100 gig breakout, I promised earlier we talk about why a customer or a network may want to do this, and a couple of reasons why. They may have a very large and embedded base of LR4 CWDM4 transceivers in their network. They don't want to train thousands of installers of which transceiver to use for which deployment. So that's a pretty valid use case there. The key thing here is that the QSFP 28DD 2x100 transceivers will be installed in a standard QSFP DD switch port, meaning that within the same switch, you could have some of these transceivers right next to a regular 400 gig QSFP DD transceiver. So that QSFP DD slot offers a lot of flexibility, and this is one of the key things it can offer. So coming off of that QSFP 28DD transceiver, you would have 2 CS patch cables or duplex CS patch cables. On the other end, maybe an LC connector that you would connect to a patch panel or maybe even directly to another transceiver. Then the other end, you'd have an LR4 type transceiver in this scenario with accepting it on an LC basis. So 1 QSFP 28DD transceiver on one end, 2 QSFP 28LR4 transceivers on the other end. And if we go down to 2 kilometers with the CWDM4, same exact deployment scenario here. So a little bit of a summary chart here in terms of what's required from a connectivity standpoint for these scenarios. The DR4, you have a single mode MPO12 on one end, 4x single mode LC duplex in the other, just like we've done breakout connections for a long time. With the SR8 transceiver on the PAM4 side, I think the real issue here is going to be the 50 gig transceivers on the far end. Those transceivers probably aren't really available very rapidly in the market right now. It's going to be a while before you're going to have a PAM4 transceiver on optically 50 gig on one end with either NRZ or PAM4 on the copper side. So it's going to be a little while before those transceivers are readily available to perform those sorts of breakouts. On the 200 gig, 2x100 side, you're going to need CWDM4 and LR4 side. You'll need, for each transceiver, you're going to need 2 patch cables with duplex CS on one end and probably duplex LC on the other. There's also an SR4 2x100 gig transceiver also that uses an MPO24 connector. And that you'd use same MPO24 connector that's been used for quite some time. And that will have a little different implementation than what's been used in the past, where you're only using the center, you're only using the outer lanes, and with the middle lanes being not used, going to LCs on the other end. So that's something else to keep in mind. Let's explore this physical aspect we just spoke about. So those MPO to LC patch cables we mentioned. So standard breakout cables, the same sorts of breakout cables we've used for years, with an MPO on one end. So you need a female connector without pins that connect directly into the transceiver. On the LC end, it'll just be a standard paired LCs available both in multi-mode and single mode. For the DR4 and DR4 Plus and the PLR4, you'd have an MPO 12. And then for the SR8, should that day come, MPO 16. Now, if you're doing the 2x100 gig transceiver, here you'll need a simple patch cable, duplex CS to duplex LC. Pretty straightforward, 2 patch cables per transceiver. So some of the pros here, it's pretty intuitive just to patch from network element to network element. Pretty straightforward, even if you have a patch panel in between. pretty straightforward. They don't use rack space if you're just going direct connects between element to element. Cons, I think your complexities grow. You're talking about things like breakout links. If you're going for a 400 gig transceiver, where are your 100 gig transceivers? Are they right next to each other? Are they in the same rack? Are they in the same row? Or are they in different rows? At that point, you're talking about things like breakout links, how we engineer those, a number of different things to keep in mind with that sort of deployment. And quite frankly, when you're direct connecting network elements, you're reducing flexibility. You're flexing your patching down the road. So, that's just a standard trade-off over the years for direct connecting versus cross-connecting, right? Is simply you're reducing some flexibility down the road. So another option you may have is on your breakout cassettes. So on the rear of the cassette, we'll take your MPO connector. You'll have 100 gigs off that, say, the DR4 or DR4 Plus or whichever transceiver. They'll be broke out to LC pairs on the front of the cassette that you can tap into your 100 gig pairs. This is both the multi-mode and single mode options. There's capacity for 3-4 by breakouts within one cassette. So a lot of the pros with this is it offers takes care of some of those cons from the direct connection scenario. You have standard cable links for cassettes at the top of rack. You can run trunk cables between end of row to each rack. Very much very slick in that regard. You increase your flexibility in port and cable management. Some of the cons. So one thing you have to deal with is MPO polarity, and MPO polarity would seem to be straightforward, but most people end up asking, oh gosh, scratching their head, right? Which polarity do I need? Which cables do I need? Do I need crossover? Do I need straight through connectors? And the answer is all depends. All depends on what you're trying to connect. So that's definitely adds to some of the complexities of deploying cassettes. And it does take up rack space where you're using, either a 5-inch LGX footprint or a 4-inch more high density type footprint. So it does take up rack space in your deployment. So as we look ahead, what's the road ahead lies for 400 gigs? So at ProLabs, right now we're seeing that, 400 gig network elements, switches, and routers are being shipped by OEMs. They're starting to be shipped after a few years and wondering when's the shipment's going to start, when are they going to start? Well, now they're happening, right? They're shipping this product out to networks, data centers, service providers around the world. So that's good to see. It's good to see in the market that's happening. Now, over the next few months, we're going to see, supply is going to mature, technology is going to mature, the software is going to support more transceivers in the field. So we're going to see that technology really start to mature here over the next few months towards the promise of 400 gig is going to be delivered in network elements delivered by the OEMs. And by the end of the year, we're really going to see more OEMs offering these switches, a much more robust market to buy 400 gig switches, if you will. But then, as we get to OEM, 400 gig is here, it's real. We're going to have real conversations about 800 gig and what's that going to mean to our networks starting probably February of next year at OFC. So there's going to be a number of different things to come their way, but 400 gig is going to be around for a long time. It's going to be a very big shift in the network architecture. I think the internet is seeing unprecedented growth, and we need to shore up the core of the network. So 400 gig will be here forever.
Thank you so much for watching this video. For more info on 400 gig and 400 gig products, the appropriate links are down below. If you like these in-depth explainers like this one, let us know in the comments and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more educational videos like this one. Thanks again, and stay connected for the next video.